for some of you, this will be a little bit more new. This was kind of hit or miss first hour, okay? Some people were like, hey, I got this, no big deal. Other people were like, you know what? This is really challenging me. I can't quite see how this works. So we want to learn how to factor the sum of cubes and the difference of cubes and then grouping. So here's an example. Suppose you have x cubed plus 8. Okay. That is 2 cubes. Okay. And it factors like this. It factors to a binomial and a trinomial. Here's how it factors. I'll show you the rule after. What do you multiply by itself 3 times to get x cubed? X. So x goes there. What do you multiply by itself 3 times to get 8? 2. So 2 goes here. If there's a plus here, there's a plus here. Is everybody okay with that first step? No big deal, right? All right. So now we have 3 parts here. For the first part, you square the front. What do you get if you square this? X squared. Then you square the back. 4. Then you multiply these two together. Now all we need are the signs. This last sign here is always positive. This sign here is opposite of what you see out front. And that's it. This part doesn't factor. It just factors once. So if you have a cubed plus b cubed, here's the rule. What do you multiply by itself 3 times to get a cubed? A. What do you multiply by itself 3 times to get b cubed? B. What sign goes in the middle? Plus. What's going to be here? Square the front, square the back, multiply the 2 in the middle. This is plus, this is opposite. That's the rule that we use. Let's suppose that instead of the sum of cubes, let's suppose it's the difference of cubes. Let's try 64 minus y to the 6th. If it's the difference of cubes, it factors almost identical. But instead of a plus b, it's going to be a minus b. Square the front, square the back. Multiply the 2 together. This is always positive. This is opposite of what you see. So let's try to factor this one together. We see the rule. What do you multiply by itself 3 times to get 64? Ooh. We need this. One times 1 times 1 is 2 times 2 times 2 is 3 times 3 times 3 is 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. And 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. These are what we call perfect cubes. Perfect cubes. So, what do you multiply by itself 3 times to get 64? 4. What do you multiply by itself 3 times to get y to the 6th? Y squared. is the sign going to be plus or minus? Minus. Square the front. 16. Square the back. Y to the fourth. Multiply the two together. This sign is always positive. This is opposite. So I'd like you to try example 1 on your own. See if you can do example 1 on your own. Try to factor this difference of cubes on your own. See what you come up with. Okay, let's check this one. You should have x minus 2. Square the front, we get x squared. Square the back, we get 4. Multiply the 2 together for 2x. This is always positive. This is opposite sign. We okay? Change the next problem to 125x cubed plus 27y to the 6th. What do you multiply by itself to get 125? What do you multiply by itself 3 times to get 125? 5. What do you multiply by itself to get x cubed? X. How about 27y to the 6th? 3y to the 2nd. So once you start with those two, you can fill out the rest pretty easily. We square the front. What do you get if you take 5x times 5x? 5x squared. We take 3y squared times 3y squared. How do we get the middle? Multiply those together. Yep, 15xy squared. There's an acronym that some teachers like to use for the signs, and it is SOAP. SOAP starts with S. That means same, so same sign. O means opposite, so opposite sign. And then the AP means always positive, so always positive. So that could be a way you try to think about it too. Not too bad, huh? Some indifference of cubes is one that a lot of people get struggled with because it looks like the formula is big. But once you have some practice, it hopefully isn't too bad. Flip it over. It's our last part, factor by grouping. So when we start factoring, we always look for a common factor. Notice in this first problem here, notice first of all there's 4 terms, aren't there? That's the first sign that it might be a grouping type problem. The second thought is that it's got 4 terms, but there's no common factor. For example, let's say there was no 40 on the end here. What's the common factor in that? They all have x, but the 40 doesn't have an x, so we can't take out an x. Suppose you didn't have the x cubed out front, you could factor out a 2, right? So you can see that when you get rid of a term, you might be able to factor something, but not all of them have the same factor. So what we're going to do is we are going to group a set of terms together. We're going to group the first 2, and then we're going to group the last 2. And we're going to look for common factors from each set. What is the common factor that you can take out of x cubed minus 10x squared? Take out the x squared, and what are you left with? X minus 10. Look at my second set. What can you take out of 40x or 4x and negative 40? And we take out 4, you're left with That's good news that I have x minus 10 in both situations. This is where people get confused. I have two terms. I have the term in blue and I have the term in green. What do they both share as a common factor? So I'm going to take the x minus 10 out. When I take an x minus 10 out of this, what are you left with? X squared. And we take the x minus 10 out of this, you're left with, so plus 4. And that's it. X squared plus 4 doesn't factor. But that's it. Not too bad? Let's try the last one. Before you just start putting parentheses down in front of stuff, you got to be careful. Because, tell me this, what is the value of 16? Is it positive or is it negative? It's positive. If you put a parenthesis down, is the value of the 16 positive or negative now? It's negative because that negative would distribute. You can't put a parenthesis in front of a negative. So the way that you should do this is write it as y cubed minus 4y squared. And instead of subtraction, you should write addition and then a negative 4y plus 16. Now I have an addition sign. I could go ahead and put parentheses here. I could put parentheses there. What is the common factor among y cubed and negative 4y squared? Take out y squared, and you're left with y minus 4. What can you take out of negative 4y and positive 16? Negative 4. And you're left with positive y and a minus 4. What factor do those share in common? I take out a y minus 4. When you take a y minus 4 out of that, what are you left with? Y squared. And we take a y minus 4 out of that, you're left with negative 4. Now look at how that's different from the one we have up here. Up here you had x squared plus 4. Does the sum of two squares factor? No, but does the difference of two squares factor? Yeah, what does y squared minus 4 factor to? Yeah, y plus 2 times y minus 2. And then that's fully factored. That's the last piece that we need to know for our factoring options. We'll probably be testing sometime next week, maybe say next week Tuesday. Okay, so we'll spend some time reviewing. We have some other things that we need to cover, but we'll get you ready to go. You can take out your worksheets and work on the next piece there. It's there.